Contest in Bihar is one between Vikas and Jungle Raj. He even chided the opposition for pushing Bihar back into the dark days of the 90s and the early 2000s, which was characterized by the phrase Jungle Raj. And he also said that Sushasan, or good governance, will only happen under the NDA. Sushasan Babu being one of the monikers used to refer to Nitish Kumar. It's also in a way an endorsement. The word Sushasan is an endorsement of Nitish Kumar and his leadership. The opposition is not willing to buy that. They are daring the NDA to say in as many words that Nitish Kumar will continue to be the chief minister post the 14th of November. So in this narrative war between Vikas Raj and the memories of Jungle Raj, which may be alien to this new generation of Biharis, a large number of whom are under the age of 30, which narrative will prevail? Which narrative will the politically consummate Bihari buy come the 6th of November and the 11th of November? Let's listen in to the reactions first, what the Prime Minister said and the reactions to it. And then, of course, there's also this legacy war that's going on. Karpuri Thakur, Sitaram Kesri. We'll talk about all of that. But first, some reactions.
ये दो लोग गुजरात से आकर के बिहार चलाने का काम कर रहे हैं। बताओ सहरसा के लोगों, बिहार को बिहारी चलाएगा कि बाहरी चलाएगा? अरे बिहार को बिहारी चलाएगा कि बाहरी चलाएगा?
एक तरफ एनडीए है, ये सूझबूझ से भरा हुआ नेतृत्व है, वहीं दूसरी तरफ लाठियां भाज रहा महागठबंधन है.
So it's Latbandhan versus Gathbandhan. There is no doubt that this Jungle Raj reminder remains the biggest poll plank for the BJP, even though it's been a while since the RJD has been out of power. In fact, the RJD was out of power since 2005. So for the last 20 years, it's been Nitish Kumar in power, either with the help of the NDA and the BJP, or for a brief while, he was also part of the Mahagठबंधन. So why does this whole referencing back to Jungle Raj work? Now, because one, it revives memories of the 90s. It was a dark time in the history of Bihar. There was crime, kidnappings. There was real fear under the RJD rule. It reinforces the idea that the NDA is the only coalition that can bring law and order and infrastructure development right to the heart of Bihar and Biharis. It also helps counter polarize non-Yadav OBCs, other extremely backward castes, Dalits, and of course some of the forward castes who've been a traditional BJP staple, as it were. They were, of course, sidelined during those 15 years of Jungle Raj from 1990 to 2005, which has been painted as an era of lawlessness. It also resonates with new age urban voters, the mercantile class, traders, who still fear those days of lawlessness. Returning the business community was a big target during those days. In fact, it also strengthens Nitish Kumar and his tag, the moniker of Sushasan Babu, or the man who brought in good governance in Bihar as an able administrator without any bias, while at the same time trying to negate factors like anti-incumbency, youth unrest, unemployment, etc. So that's why the Prime Minister too has focused on this whole thing about Jungle Raj. And they're not just leaving it to speeches of the Prime Minister or Amit Shah. In fact, election campaigning in Bihar has been overshadowed by a bit of a widespread trend that is now happening, which is the use of vulgar and provocative, and some would even say openly violent songs or audio tracks. The BJP is using it, the RJD is using it. In fact, one such song which brazenly declares that people might get abducted with a gun to their head. There's another track which boasts of shooting a political rival, threatens mention of a particular caste as well. All of it a sort of reminder, a bit of a lightning rod, if you will, that this is how it was. This is how bad it was back in the 1990s. And if RJD comes back to power, this is back where Bihar is going to go. Now, many believe that sometimes the critical lines are crossed in this. It moves beyond just mere political campaigning. There's also a degree of normalization of criminal acts, and that is arming the NDA against the Mahagठबंधन. I want to play out some snippets from such music videos or albums that have been put out and that have become hugely popular in this current round of campaigning in Bihar. In fact, my colleague Pallavi Ghosh caught up with Mukesh Sahni from the VIP party, who's been declared as the Deputy Chief Minister face for the Mahagठबंधन, and asked him about this.
लालू प्रसाद यादव जी का ये पूरा देश और दुनिया जानता है कि लालू प्रसाद जी का शासनकाल जो था गरीब पिछड़ा दलित के लिए है ना सोनेरा काल था। जिसको कुर्सी पर बैठने का हैसियत नहीं था, जिसको कुर्सी पे लोग बैठने नहीं देते, अपने घर के सामने चप्पल पहन के जाने नहीं देते थे, उनको उन्होंने कुर्सी पे बैठाने का काम लालू प्रसाद यादव जी किए। अगर एक मल्ला का बेटा अगर आपके सामने में अगर सीना तान के अगर खड़ा है तो ये लालू प्रसाद यादव जी का देन है।
अगर एनडीए की सरकार बनती है और उनके पास नंबर थोड़े से कम होते हैं, क्या आप छोड़ दोगे महागठबंधन और एनडीए के पास चले जाओ?
अगर नंबर कम होंगे तो ये हमारे लिए अच्छा है ना कि हम सरकार बना रहे हैं। फिर जब हम यहाँ पे खुद लीडर हैं तो लॉडर बनने के लिए क्यों जाएंगे?
Okay, let me go across for a political face-off. RP Singh, national spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Sujata Paul, spokesperson of the Congress, joining us. RP Singh, so today the Prime Minister also said, in fact, he said young people should sit with their elders and get a refresher course in what the 90s was, what Jungle Raj was like in Bihar. For a generation, I think almost 45-46% of the voters of Bihar this time around are between the age of 18 and 30. Who'd have no memories really of the Jungle Raj. Why is the Prime Minister seeking to take them back 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
Well, Zakka, what happened recently in one of these rally of Mr. Tejashwi Yadav, where Shahabuddin Jindabad was chanted. And who is Shahabuddin? I mean, you are virtually idol worshipping Shahabuddin. Although he's a Muslim, you are virtually trying to bow down in front of Shahabuddin and say, Shahabuddin Jindabad, Slimuddin Jindabad. And who is Shahabuddin? Who has burned two people alive by putting acid on them. This was the track record of Shahabuddin. And then, top of it, his son, Osama, has been allocated ticket, nomination. And man this boy has also some 4 or 5 cases. I've been told there are criminal cases against him. But issue is, let people understand, and the youngster remember that what sort of lawlessness was there in Bihar. I remember there used to be a very famous doctor, I remember forgetting his name. He bought a car for his civil servant son-in-law. That car was taken by someone, and then when he went to the chief minister's house, the car was there in chief minister's house. And settlement was done by the chief minister person who tried to help the doctor by getting the car back and by paying some money to the that gangster or that person who took away the car.
Okay.
So this is what Bihar used to be, and in last 20 years there is a order which is lawful. There is an administration which is lawful. There are cases. I accept there would have been cases, but it's not that they have been given shielded by the state government or shielded by the politicians, shielded by the chief minister himself. So that's the difference.
Okay, let me ask Sujata Paul this. So the Prime Minister is saying, it's Latubandhan, not Gathbandhan. Opposition alliance is a coalition of criminals. It'll be the return of Jungle Raj. A vote for the opposition will bring back Jungle Raj. I mean, even the most ardent of your supporters will say that the Lalu Rabri time of 15 years, 1990 to 2005, there was lawlessness, there was peak lawlessness. And in the last 20 years, and that's why Nitish Kumar got the Susasan Babu tag, that he brought good governance. Today, even at night, 10 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock, even women can walk in the streets of Patna. That was unthinkable 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Really? Is that why people are getting murdered in the capital of Bihar, Patna? And is that why police officers are being murdered? Is that why women are being raped? Is that why this present government has nothing to show to the people of Bihar as far as its governance is concerned? And he's absolutely right. But the language, look at the language he uses. He's the Prime Minister of the country, but he uses very, low-life language. This is the reason, because 70,877 crore rupees has been eaten up by this combine, and it is the CAG report which is saying it. I am not saying it. And it is the rural development, the urban development, the Panchayati Raj, health department, education department. This is where they have eaten up the money. Look at this. School dropouts, 20.5%. In the mid-level. So when you are talking about Bihar, there is one very important fact that needs to be brought out. And as far as their MLAs in the Vidhan Sabha was concerned, they had 84, out of which 53 total in this alliance had, that means basically about 64% people who had criminal cases on them. Nothing to be said about that. The Prime Minister lives in the past only to create a negative narrative, but people are no longer buying it. He should also answer as to why Mr. Karpuri Thakur, who has been given the Bharat Ratna by them, he has not answered about it, and this is a question that we are constantly asking him. That was it not the Jan Sangh and the RSS which heard the vilest of abuses on it when he was CM and he wanted to bring reservations for the OBCs? But no, this is not a question that he will answer. This is not something that is important
Sujata
to him.
Paul ji, you are also invoking leaders from the past. Sitaram Kesri, a forgotten Congress president who was literally thrown out of the Congress office today. Rahul Gandhi tweeted saying that my remembrance on his 25th death anniversary.
Look, as far as what is happening within our party is ours, but I'll also tell you that his grandson, who lives in Deoghar, that is in Jharkhand, wrote also to the leadership of the Congress party, and that is how he was there in Delhi today. Now you are going to highlight it because he was from Bihar, but that is not how it is. He was a leader of ours, and we will definitely respect every leader of ours. It is not the BJP who is going to tell us when to do it and how to do it.
You know, and I'm old enough to remember that the famous fracas that happened, I think it was in 1997 or 1998, the first election that Sonia Gandhi got elected to become Congress president, Mr. Kesri was literally thrown out of the Congress office.
Tell me something.
This is historic.
His family is standing with us. So does his family have a problem? Why does the BJP have a problem? We have not sent away Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi, Mr. Advani into
RP saying you didn't recognize Karpuri Thakur. You have nothing to say about Sitaram Kesri. If Congress leaders are invoking them, then so be it. You are also invoking Karpuri Thakur now, post facto.
Well, they could have done it. Why didn't they give Bharat Ratna to Karpuri Thakur? Rather, they stole his Jannaik. And then they said, oh, Rahul Gandhi is the new Jannaik. Well, that's what they do. वोट चोरी की बात करते करते आज जननायक का खिताब चोरी कर लिया इन लोगों ने. They have stolen the famous.
Ma'am, one second, please. One at a time. That's how I do my debates. One at a time. One at a time. Let him finish, please. Thank you. RP Singh.
So आज उनका खिताब चोरी कर लिया इन लोगों ने. That's what they do. Sitaram Kesri ki, they are trying to carry forward his name today. His family is with Sitaram Kesri's family is with us. I mean, they are claiming that. Remember, you don't remember? I still remember in my memory, Sitaram Kesri was locked into the toilet and not allowed to come. And later on, he was physically picked up and thrown out of the office. But that's what they did to Sitaram Kesri. And what about Narasimha Rao ji? He was not given even the last mortal rights which was to be given to him. I mean, he was not allowed his body to be brought to the party headquarters. This how they respect the party seniors.
Okay.
But that point aside, that point aside, he was talking about how Bihar has performed. Let me just tell you, the budget of Bihar has increased almost from 23,885 crore to 3,16,895 crore. The average Krishidhar, the average is 2.3 to 8.5%. The per person income has increased from 7,914 to 66,828. The electricity is available now to 100%. It used to be 22%.
Ma'am, if you show these placards while the other guest is speaking, it doesn't help you or him. You can show these placards when your turn comes. Please, my request, please.
I'm quiet.
Yes, RP Singh.
So, ma'am, this is a wrong data which you are showing. This CAG has said that document has to be produced, not that this money has been stolen. Let's be clear. You can show whatever, but let's understand. You are alive with a person who has been convicted for 32.5 years, 32.5 years by the court.
Okay.
When Chara Chor and then his son is convicted under 420, but what can they do?
Today,
himself is a chore. The leader is a chore who is out on bail.
The CM phase himself has multiple cases of corruption. Mr. Tejashwi Yadav himself has IRCTC scam, the hotel scam. There are innumerable cases against him, of corruption. And now you are saying CAG says 70,000 crore gotala hua hai.
हाँ तो अगर कहा है तो नहीं कहेंगे कि हुआ है.
No, that's like the pot calling the kettle black, no?
No, not at all. Let me answer.
I give a challenge. I give a challenge. Kag has not mentioned that.
Sir, now let her say. Yeah.
See, the fact of the matter is that what did they do to former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar ji? He's nowhere to be found, nowhere to be seen. He was not given a farewell also. What happened to Mr. Satpal Malik? Late Mr. Satpal Malik was a leader of the BJP. He was a governor made by the BJP. And look at what happened after he died. Did they give him any kind of honor? No. Did any one of them show any respect towards him? So let's not talk about honoring and respecting people. We know what you've done to Mr. Advani. We know what you've done to Murli Manohar Joshi ji and all the other tall leaders. But when you talk about corruption, look at Mr. Ajit Pawar. It was the BJP who was targeting him. 70,000 crore chakki beasing. Samrat Chaudhary, whose father was a founder member of Samta Party. Look at the way he talks today, and he actually has a whole lot of criminal cases against him. But he is the deputy chief minister of Bihar because it is the BJP which is promoting him.
Okay.
So as far as cases are concerned, let's not get there.
Okay, we'll see. Ultimately, of course, the courts have to decide whether it is conviction or acquittal. I'll leave it at that. Let's see how this plays out. This battle for Bihar is just hotting up with the first day of campaigning by the Prime Minister and by Amit Shah. Let's now move on to another story, and this is an important one. It's a tragic one. It's come early this morning from the border between Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Andhra Pradesh woke up this morning to terrible, disastrous news of the Kurnool bus fire that killed at least 20 people. The visuals, this is from 2 o'clock in the morning. This morning, a massive fire gutting that entire bus, and then hours later, you can see that entire bus has been completely gutted. It was owned by a travel company called Kaveri Travels. A preliminary probe has been issued, and it reveals that this was an accident that first caused it, which was the cause of the fire, and then eventually the people who were inside the bus, they were sleeping at that time. There were no emergency exits. There was only one entry and exit way, one door basically, and the people, of course, were completely caught off guard. What happened was a motorcycle first collided with the bus. Unfortunately, the collision happened at a point which was very close to the fuel tank of the bus. It opened the fuel tank of the bus, and then after that collision, of course, the entire bus went up in flames. There was resultant leakage of petrol and diesel. The friction there believed to have led to the fire, and then the fuel tank of the bus burst. It caught fire. It trapped all the passengers who were inside, who were sleeping obviously at that time of the morning. They were in deep slumber. They didn't know when the fire started, and they found it extremely difficult to exit because there was no emergency exit. There was only one entry and exit point, the door, the main door at the front of the bus, and the passageway, the narrow passageway between the two areas where the berths were, that was too narrow for the entire crowd of the bus to get out, and 20 people perished. This is not the first time. We saw something similar last week in Rajasthan as well, but I want to get you some reactions, and then we'll open this up as well and try and get a sense of why these private buses cannot be reined in to better safety standards.
जो इंसिडेंट हुआ वो आधी रात में कोई टू व्हीलर आके बस को टक्कर लगाने से हुआ। कम से कम 20 लोग वहीं की वहीं डेथ हो गए। जो बचे से 20 लोगों को वहाँ तुरंत सरकार के तरफ से दवाखाना ले जाके उनका पूरा देखभाल कर रहे हैं। ऐसी एक्सीडेंट के लिए एक हम लोग आंध्रा ट्रांसपोर्ट मिनिस्टर, कर्नाटका और तेलंगाना बैठ के विद आवर डिपार्टमेंट स्टाफ के साथ बैठ के आने वाले दिन में नहीं हुआ जैसा करना है।
Now, this particular bus, it belonged to Vemuri Kaveri Travels. It's got a laundry list of violations already. There was no business for this bus to be plying out on the roads. Official records accessed by CNN News 18 show that the bus bore initially was originally registered in Daman and Diu. This was in August of 2018. Then the registration of the bus itself was transferred to what is the Rayagada Regional Transport Office in Odisha. That was in April this year. The bus had valid documentation on all counts, but it also had reportedly 16 outstanding challans, traffic challans. Most of these challans were for entering no-entry roads, overspeeding, dangerous driving, and of course without carrying an adequate driver's license. So there were multiple violations, pending violations, for which this bus should not have been out on the roads in the first place. And despite that, this bus was flying between Hyderabad and Bangalore. And unfortunately, it led to this accident. My colleague Aneri was there at the spot right after this accident happened, and this is the report she filed.
In a devastating incident that has been reported near Kurnool in Andhra Pradesh, where we see that near about 19 people lost their life and 27 people managed to escape after a private travel bus traveling from Hyderabad to Bangalore caught under a massive fire at around 3 a.m. And now what we are learning that the incident occurred when the private travel bus rammed into a two-wheeler, and the two-wheeler was stuck under the vehicle, and that travelled for a certain distance, due to which we see that this massive fire accident had taken place. Well, also now the larger question remains is that where all the safety protocols in the bus were followed or not, because what we are also learning is that on this very bus number there are 16 challans which have been pending, and this is from January 2024 to October 2025, and most of them are for overspeeding, driving without driving license, in no entry, and many other reasons due to which this bus has been challaned for 16 times in last 1.5 years of time. Now, Andhra Pradesh Home Minister Anita has given a clarification stating that near about 19 people lost their life and 27 people managed to escape. However, they received minor injuries and they have been undergoing treatment at the hospital. And also at the same time, the Andhra Pradesh government has constituted a committee to investigate into this very incident that has taken place.
I want to go across to Kiran Bedi, former IPS officer, former Delhi Police Commissioner, also been Regional Transport Commissioner. Thanks, ma'am, for joining us. Today we saw those tragic pictures coming out from Kurnool. 20 people have died in a sleeper AC bus. We saw something similar happen in Rajasthan just a few days ago. Many of these buses are bought, the body of the bus is bought and then they're retrofitted. There are all kinds of modifications that happen inside. They don't have the necessary safety guidelines, whether it's emergency exit doors or multiple breakable windows, multiple entry and exit points. This is a grave concern. Who should be held accountable, and you know, how can we fix this problem? The problem of these private sleeper AC buses, which have no merit for rules and regulations, and particularly for when it comes to fire accidents such as this. Who should be held accountable for this, and what can be done to fix this problem?
By daily supervision, by daily homework. Prevention is a daily work. It's not, it doesn't have any holiday. And the culture of prevention, culture of preparation, culture of care, culture of sense of responsibility, sense of duty, conscientiousness, all these lead to prevention. And that means from the bottom to the top that there is a better supervision, greater leadership, greater collaboration and participation. Unless you do that, everybody has to be a performing civil servant or a public servant or wherever they are. So unless everybody plays a role from top to bottom, it doesn't happen. And whichever level fails you, such tragedies happen.
But I do want to ask you, ma'am, this particular bus had numerous traffic challans against it, whether it was for overspeeding, entry into no entry areas, rash driving. Despite 16 challans against this particular bus, this was allowed to ply on the road. So the question is, why and who should be held accountable for this? The fact that a bus which had 16 traffic violations to its name was still out on the roads.
The police department, the transport department, where if they had so many challans, they should have cancelled the contract, cancelled the license, cancelled the driving license, cancelled so much. Then because there's a provision in the act where you can cancel driving license or you cancel the contract by which the bus is running. Why haven't they done it? And if it's 16 challans, then what has happened even on the prosecution? Let's look at the courts. Had those prosecutions gone to the court? And what did the courts do? You see, every level requires a sense of duty and responsibility. It's at every level. It's a blockchain. It's a blockchain of safety. And whichever level fails, it takes lives. And in this case, the courts need to be known whether these challans were in the court. And what did the courts do? Even the courts can order cancellation of such licenses. Did they do it? So we need to look at even the way the courts perform. The transport authority puts up these challans and gives them show cause notices of suspension of licenses. They can even do suspension of licenses. Why did they not do it?
I want to get one final word from you, and this is particularly concerning these AC sleeper buses. You know, the body or the shell of it is bought, the chassis is bought, and then they are retrofitted. There are all kinds of internal modifications that are done, after which there is no sort of vetting. No transport commissioner, no RTO comes and you know, signs off on these internal modifications that have happened. And as a result of these internal modifications, you know, all kinds of safety considerations are thrown out the window. There are no emergency exits or doors. There's only one entry and exit point, which is the main door. And even the gap between the areas where the berths are, the sleeping berths are, is too narrow for a crowd of 20 or 40 or 50 people to exit. God forbid there's an accident or a fire like what we saw today in Kurnool. Again, why is there no regulation for this? Why is there no accountability for this? And who should be held accountable?
Negligent. And it's left to nothing. Everybody is in positions, but not in performance.
Okay, Ms. Kiran Bedi, thank you very much for joining us. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of these 20 people who died in this very, very tragic accident that happened in Kurnool. Of course, this bus was going between Hyderabad and Bangalore, and a very, very terrible and tragic incident. Completely avoidable, by the way, completely avoidable human tragedy, man-made tragedy in a bus which had more than a dozen traffic challans to its name, none of which was paid. Neither the owner nor the drivers were brought to court and made to pay those fines. So there was no business for this bus to be out on the roads in the first place. And secondly, like I said, there were completely the safety considerations, the emergency exits, the fire extinguisher that is supposed to be kept on every bus. All of that was out the window. The fact that there was only one entry and exit, again, was one of the fundamental reasons why people couldn't jump out, because A, there was only one entry and exit point at the front of the bus, and that too was completely jammed with these melted wires and melted rods, so no one could jump out of that. There was one lucky woman who managed to jump out because she broke the window right next to her. That was the only breakable glass in that entire bus, so she managed to escape to safety. But like I said, 20 people perishing for absolutely a man-made tragedy. Talking about man-made tragedies, we're talking about the Ukraine war, and now US President Donald Trump seems to have found a way in which he thinks that he can get Russian President Putin to the dialogue table, and that is by imposing sanctions on two of Russia's biggest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, in the hope that this will hurt Putin where it matters the most. Russia made $200 billion in net revenues by its oil exports in the year 2024. That has come down quite substantially in 2025, but this is where it will really hurt. These are the two biggest Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, and Trump is hoping with this move, Putin will be forced to come to the dialogue table. Putin has responded by saying that no self-respecting country will accept this. The two biggest countries that will be affected by these sanctions are China and India. They happen to be the two biggest importers of Russian oil. In fact, India's import of Russian oil up until the month of September was 34%. It was the single largest supplier of foreign crude to India, happened to be Russia. And this has been the case for the last 3 years almost, since this war began in 2022. Before the war began, India's share of imported Russian oil was about 1 or 2%, but now it's gone up to 33-34%. At one point at the peak, it was close to 40%, if not more than 40%. That's come down quite a bit. One of the big importers of Russian oil in India happens to be Reliance Industries, which has now put out a statement. They have said, in response to the restrictions on crude oil imports from Russia that have been imposed first by the EU and then earlier this week by the Trump administration in the United States. The statement says, and I quote, "Reliance is currently assessing the implications, including the new compliance requirements. We will comply with the European Union's guidelines on the import of refined products into Europe. And whenever there is any guidance from the government of India in this respect, as always, we will be complying fully." Reliance has consistently aligned itself with the objectives of ensuring India's energy security. Now, even as India stands its ground on the import of Russian oil, there are reports of Germany seeking an exemption from these US sanctions on the Russian oil company Rosneft and its German subsidiary. India is now exposing what is clearly a Western hypocrisy on the pressure that's being mounted by the Trump administration on the Modi government to stop the import of Russian oil. In fact, Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is on a visit to Europe, and he confronted the UK's trade minister on this issue, asking why India was being singled out. There are no sanctions on China up until yesterday. There are no sanctions on Europe as well for buying Russian oil. It's only India that is being singled out.
So I was reading in today's paper, Germany is asking for exemption from US sanctions on oil. Now these are UK already has sorted and probably got an exemption for procuring oil.
No.
From the US.
This is about the Rosneft deal, sanctions, right. I think, and we've sorted out the issues with Germany. We managed to do that very quickly, and I think the Americans will do something very similar.
So then why single out India?
Well, it's a specific subsidiary in relation to Rosneft.
We also have a subsidiary in India of the Rosneft.
It was meant to be another grand handshake moment. President Donald Trump thought his recent phone call with Vladimir Putin was a good start and he wanted to meet with him in person in Budapest. But 5 days later, that plan's gone. Replaced instead by a sweeping round of sanctions on Russia's biggest oil giants. Inside the White House, the shift was sudden but not entirely surprising. Trump, once eager to cast himself as the deal maker who could end the war in 24 hours, found himself frustrated again. The good conversations with Putin, as he called them, simply went nowhere. Officials say Trump scrapped the Budapest meeting after realizing Putin's position hadn't budged since their Alaska summit months ago.
I don't know that they will. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push... hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say, and we're going to find out. They hate each other. These two people hate each other. You know that better than anybody, and it makes it more difficult than it should be.
No ceasefire, no concessions. Just the same demands. Ukraine must surrender the Donbass, disarm and abandon NATO dreams. The breaking point came soon after a deadly Russian strike on a kindergarten in Kharkiv, an image that reportedly infuriated the president. Hours later, Trump met his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and signed off on sanctions that stunned even his inner circle. Within hours, Rosneft and Lukoil, Russia's two biggest oil producers, were cut off from the US-led financial system. The penalties bar not just Russian companies but also any third parties dealing with them, like India and China. The White House hopes this will drain Moscow's coffers and force Putin towards the negotiating table. Oil and gas fund nearly a fifth of Russia's economy. The timing couldn't be worse for Moscow. Oil prices have dropped nearly 20% this year. Inflation is soaring nearly 10% and recruiting bonuses for soldiers are bleeding the budget dry. But economic pain rarely translates into political surrender. Even before Washington's sanctions hit, the Kremlin repeated its old line. Its goals in Ukraine remain unchanged. In Moscow, Putin shrugged off the move as an unfriendly act that would cause some losses but no major damage.
And they will have certain consequences, but still they will not significantly affect our economic well-being.
He warned that any US strike using the long-range Tomahawks Ukraine wants would trigger a very strong response. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who just days earlier left Washington empty-handed after asking for Tomahawk missiles, called the sanctions a good signal.
We had more than 2 hours conversation on different topics with a lot of details. Yes, I think the most important details what we talk about, how to defend ourselves, how to have unity and security guarantees, and the place of the United States, which is important in security guarantees for the future of Ukraine, and how now to go to political decisions.
Trump's sanctions package is his first major strike against Moscow since returning to the White House. And a U-turn from his months-long effort to coax Putin into summits and soft diplomacy. In January, Trump said he would only consider sanctions if Europe first stopped buying Russian energy. By October, with Europe already cutting its imports and Russia refusing to stop bombing civilians, he changed course completely. For now, the Budapest summit is shelved. Putin insists talks are still possible with proper preparation, while his aides brand the US sanctions an act of war.
Of course, this is an unfriendly act towards Russia. This is an obvious thing. And it does not strengthen Russian-American relations, which have just begun to recover. Of course, with such actions, the US administration damages Russian-American relations.
Trump, meanwhile, says he's open to meeting Putin again when there's something real to talk about.
And frankly, both sides of this war. And he's always said in order to negotiate a good peace deal, both sides need to be interested in a good peace deal. And he feels as though, unfortunately, from the Russian side as of late, he has not seen enough interest and enough action in terms of moving the ball forward towards peace. A meeting between these two leaders is not completely off the table. I think the president and the entire administration hopes that one day that can happen again, but we want to make sure that there's a tangible, positive outcome out of that meeting.
But the truth is starker. Neither men have changed. Putin won't back down, and Trump cannot sell another failed peace attempt.
A fragile ceasefire in Gaza and Israel's posturing on the West Bank is making Donald Trump extremely impatient. Even though the US president has explicitly said he will not allow Israel to annex parts of the West Bank, he even sent two of his emissaries, Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to rein in Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu, too, has been at pains to explain that this procedural vote that was brought forward before the Israeli parliament did not have his government's endorsement. Is this one of the most complex and tricky moments in US-Israel relations? In fact, the opposition is hitting back at Netanyahu, saying that this is not babysitting, this is Bibi sitting that America and the Trump administration are doing. I dig a little deeper.
Don't worry about the West Bank. Israel's not going to do anything with the West Bank, okay?
The Trump administration has made one thing clear. Any Israeli attempt to annex parts of the occupied West Bank will not be tolerated. US President Donald Trump drove that point home in an interview with the Time magazine published this week. It won't happen because I gave my word to Arab countries. That's how the president said, and he went on to add that the West Bank annexation, if it happened, then Israel would lose all of the support that it gets from the United States.
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it. It's not going to happen.
Did you speak with Netanyahu about this directly?
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow it. Whether I spoke to him or not, I did. But I'm not allowing Israel to annex the West Bank. There's been enough. It's time to stop now, okay?
The day before the Trump interview came out, the Israeli Knesset, or the Israeli parliament, passed two largely symbolic votes in favor of annexing the West Bank. This is a territory which much of the world envisions as the very core of a future Palestinian state. If Israel were to annex the West Bank, then that is the end of a two-state solution. The United States is Israel's most important ally, and the preliminary votes in the Israeli parliament clearly raise the hackles of President Trump and his administration folks. In fact, Vice President J.D. Vance, who wrapped up a two-day visit to Israel, vented his anger at this vote in the Israeli parliament. He said that if this was a political stunt, then it was a stupid one to do.
What I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance, it was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel.
The votes in the Israeli parliament happened on Wednesday. That's the same day that Vance arrived in Israel. The messages from Trump and Vance left Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu scrambling to distance himself from this parliamentary vote. So much so, Netanyahu's office had to put out a clarification in which it stressed about how a large majority of his party, the Likud party, and his right-wing coalitioners had not voted in favor of this West Bank bill. These bills, put forth on Wednesday by a couple of right-wing members of the parliamentary opposition, were largely symbolic. And in fact, if they have to pass, they would need substantially higher number of votes from both Netanyahu's party as well as his coalition partners. And there is much more legislative work that needs to be done before this becomes a law. The political maneuvering around these bills came at a sensitive time amidst a series of visits to Israel by top American officials. They were all there to shore up the fragile Gaza ceasefire, which came into effect barely a couple of weeks ago, to end the 2-year-long war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who also visited Israel this week, he told reporters that the annexation of the West Bank was not something that President Trump would be supportive of. Such moves could potentially endanger the Gaza ceasefire.
That's a vote in the Knesset, but obviously I think the president's made clear that's not something we'd be supportive of right now, and we think it's even threatening to the peace deal. So they're a democracy, they're going to have their votes, people are going to take these positions, but at this time it's something that we think it might be counterproductive.
The Trump administration's plan for ending the war in Gaza include an eventual credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and eventually Palestinian statehood. Benjamin Netanyahu opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state, but he came out forcefully against the vote that happened in the parliament, which brought American pressure on his government. Without the support of the conservative Likud party, which is Netanyahu's ruling party, he said that these bills are unlikely to go anywhere. Netanyahu leads the most right-wing and religiously conservative coalition in the history of Israel. Key members of his coalition want to annex large parts of the West Bank. Some members of the ultranationalist parties, which help make up this coalition and support Netanyahu's government, have voted for the annexation bills. Most of the world views Jewish settlements in the West Bank as a violation of international law. The hardline opposition members who presented these bills have their own beef against Netanyahu. And other centrist members of the opposition simply exploited the votes to embarrass the Prime Minister and to expose splits within his coalition. Adding to the sense of political chaos in Israel, and that too 2 weeks after the ceasefire came into effect, Bezalel Smotrich, who is Israel's far-right finance minister and a staunch advocate of the annexation of West Bank, insulted Saudi Arabia. The Saudis are an American ally, a regional powerhouse, and a country that both Trump and Netanyahu have long been wooing to normalize relations with Israel. In fact, had the war not happened, the next logical step in the Abraham Accords would have been Saudi-Israel normalizing their ties. But that did not happen because of the Gaza war. Smotrich basically said at a conference on Thursday, addressing Saudi Arabia, saying, "Keep riding your camels in the sands of the Saudi desert." That was, of course, as expected, did not go down well with the Saudis. They took it as an insult. Smotrich later had to post a video on social media expressing regret. The back-to-back visits by J.D. Vance and then by Marco Rubio, and of course, both Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were also in Israel this week. All of this underscores the Trump administration's very keen interest in preserving the ceasefire. There was concern in the Trump cabinet that Netanyahu might actually vacate the deal, that he'll walk out of this deal. Both Israel and Hamas have fired and killed in recent days, exposing the shaky nature of this truce. The ceasefire agreement that went into effect earlier this month led to an Israeli military pullback within Gaza. It was also based on Hamas releasing the last of the 20 Israeli hostages who were alive in exchange for almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. The dead bodies of the remaining 20-odd are still in the process of being completed, and the holdup seems to be the firing that happened on both sides over the weekend, which has led many to ask a fundamental question: how long will the ceasefire last?
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're shifting our focus now. A Bengaluru-bound private bus carrying around 40 passengers caught fire early today in Andhra Pradesh's Kurnool district, killing at least 20 people. The bus collided with a two-wheeler, which got trapped under the vehicle and struck the fuel tank, triggering the massive blaze. What makes this tragedy even more concerning is the bus's troubling history of 16 outstanding challans, including overspeeding, dangerous driving, and violations for no entry. Furthermore, the driver was reportedly operating the bus without a valid driver's license. The state government has condoled the deaths, and questions are now being raised over the safety of these buses. In response, Prime Minister Modi has also gone on to announce a 2 lakh rupees ex gratia for the victims' families.
Sir, what exactly happened and why did this fire accident take place? What is the reason behind this fire accident, sir?
This accident is unfortunate and we are very deeply condemning this incident. At the time of morning 2:45, up to our knowledge, department, what is the information our department has collected, one scooter has gone under the bus, front side of the bus, and the tank busted and electric circuit has failed. A total bus caught with fire.
Sir, what is the number of casualties which have been reported and also how many passengers were traveling when this incident had taken place?
More than 40 to 42 passengers are in the bus when the incident has took place. Now the casualties are 11. 11 they are taking treatment in Government General Hospital, Kurnool.
And number of deaths reported, sir?
Madam, up to now we doesn't know total figure of deaths, why the bus has caught with fire and it has become, it is a very tragic situation. Approximate the deaths are around 28 to 30.
And also, sir, what are the relief measures which the government is providing on ground? Because we see this is a massive fire accident that has taken place.
Sure. The government is with the people. We will take a necessary measure to the families of wounded, deceased and dead people. In short time, we'll come to know what are the relief things we are going to give into the dead people.
First up, I want to understand from you what you're making of the situation. Have you been able to assess all that's happened the last few hours since the fire incident took place?
Yeah, in a very hot, tragic manner. We have seen that a bike has collided with the bus and resulting in a fire breaking out in the bus. And as you can see, the bus is right behind and many people have lost their lives. They have been burnt alive and several bodies are in the bus. And we are here on the ground since the incident has happened for the past 4 to 5 hours. As you can see here, the government employees, the administration, police and the doctors have responded very fastly and they are doing very fastly what they can help to the people who have been injured. And our Health Minister, Kumar, has also ordered the government doctors here to set up a camp. If you can go back, there is a camp here so that they can do postmortem and related forensic examinations faster to identify the people who have been burnt and charred inside. Apart from that, it is now estimated that nearly 12 people have jumped from the emergency exits and emergency windows. And fastly, the government employees, the staff has reacted and they have been transferred to the government hospital. 11 of them are absolutely safe. One person has sustained some major injuries and he is receiving treatment.
US President Donald Trump has launched a renewed war on drugs. He's expanded the operations from Venezuela and off the coast of Venezuela now to the Eastern Pacific, targeting one of the countries in South America, which also happens to be the biggest producer of cocaine, which is Colombia. This campaign targets major drug cartels who are smuggling into America, their smuggling routes, and also their political patronage networks, which are linked to the narcotics trade. With increased US naval activity in the Caribbean Sea and now in the Eastern Pacific, Latin America finds itself at the very heart of Trump's drug wars. But those drug wars themselves might be on very shaky legal as well as diplomatic ground.
Well, look, our main focus is obviously to blow up these boats that have narcotics on them.
For the second time in 2 days this week, the Trump administration launched deadly strikes on drug boats. These two, much like the previous ones, were vessels that were suspected of smuggling drugs in the Eastern Pacific, thereby making America expand its campaign beyond the Caribbean Sea. The strikes this week were the 8th and 9th known drug boat attacks that US Special Operations Forces have conducted since the operation began early September. America has now officially acknowledged the death toll at 37. The White House, though, did not provide any geographic details of where these latest strikes happened, beyond saying that the attacks had happened at the Eastern Pacific in international waters. All of the previous 7 attacks took place in the Caribbean Sea. This was the first one showing the expansion of the attacks on drug boats. It is possible that this was the first strike in the Eastern Pacific and was off the coast of Colombia, not off the coast of Venezuela, as has been the case up until now. The first strike, which happened late Tuesday and killed 2 people on the boat, according to a social media post by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He also included a video footage along with the attack on that social media post. He said the vessel was known by American intelligence to be involved in drug smuggling and was carrying narcotics. The Defense Secretary also announced another attack which happened on Wednesday, in which he said 3 people were killed. On Wednesday, speaking to reporters at the White House, US President Donald Trump bragged about the expansion of these strikes from Venezuela to Colombia, even though he didn't name those countries. He also suggested that future strikes could go well beyond targets out at sea. It could include land-based targets as well.
These drugs coming in, they killed 300,000 Americans last year, and that gives you legal authority. We have a national security, really, I will say this, when you look at the people we're dealing with, and we know them, we know the people coming in, we know the boats, we know everything else, we're allowed to do it. It's in international waters. If we don't do it, we're going to lose hundreds of thousands of people.
Trump falsely asserted that each such destroyed boat saves about 25,000 American lives. Now, the reality is about 100,000 Americans die every single year from drug overdose, but most of these deaths are caused by fentanyl, which comes from labs in Mexico, not from speedboats out of Venezuela. Trump then suggested that he would soon order strikes against land targets. So far, all the attacks have been on boats which are out at sea. The American president also said that his administration's strikes against these boats had driven drug smuggling onto land routes, and now he was left with no option but to target on-land strikes.
Now, they'll be coming in by land a little bit more because they're not coming in by boat anymore. There are no boats in the water. Something very serious is going to happen, the equivalent of what's happening by sea. And we're going to Congress just to tell them what we're doing, just to keep them informed. But we have to do it for national security. We have to do it to save lives.
There is a gray area here, though. Technically, any American administration is required to go to Congress and seek congressional approval before launching a land-based attack on a third country. That is the very reason why George W. Bush faced a lot of flack when he went to war with Iraq in 2003. Trump so far says all the attacks have been on international waters and all of them have posed an imminent national security threat to America, and therefore Trump argues he does not require Congress's approval. But that might be on shaky legal ground. The operation against Venezuelan boats began on the 2nd of September when the American military started attacking boats believed to be smuggling drugs into America. Initially, the focus was on Venezuela. American officials are also weighing whether to intensify the effort to remove that country's president, Nicolas Maduro, who was indicted on drug trafficking charges in the United States in 2020. Maduro, in fact, has been described by Trump and his associates as a narco-terrorist and the ringleader of these narco cartels. But in the interim, the boat attacks have increasingly extended to Colombia as well, which is a far greater source of narcotics that are smuggled into the United States, not necessarily from Venezuela. President Gustavo Petro of Colombia has said that several strikes have killed Colombians. He's accused the United States of murder. In fact, Pedro was denounced by the White House after his famous speech last month at the UNGA, where he accused Trump of being a mass murderer. Trump, in turn, has said that he's cutting off all foreign aid to Colombia as a response to Petro's charges.
Es muy paradójico que ante la mayor capacidad que ha alcanzado el gobierno colombiano en mi gobierno contra los narcotraficantes tengamos un ataque tan brutal y tan mentiroso, calumniador, como el que viene de unas figuras políticas de los Estados Unidos, no todas, entre ellas lamentablemente la del presidente Trump, que actúa con visiras y no con cerebro.
But legal experts also say that the American campaign is illegal because the military is not permitted to deliberately target civilians. Even if those civilians happen to be criminal suspects, they have to be lawfully arrested and not shot dead at point-blank range. The White House has said that these strikes are legal as a matter of self-defense, and because President Trump has determined that America is in an armed conflict with these drug cartels, which he has called as narco-terrorists. But Nicolas Maduro is not sitting idle either. The Venezuelan President Maduro said this week that Venezuela has 5,000 Russian-made portable surface-to-air missiles to counter the American forces who've been deployed in the Caribbean. Maduro said that Venezuela has Russian-made short-range missiles, also known as the Iglas, no fewer than 5,000 in key air defense positions. The Iglas, designed to take down low-flying planes, has been used in military exercises ordered by Maduro in response to the American military buildup. This buildup off the coast of the Caribbean and now expanded to the East Pacific has enraged leaders through much of Latin America.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
We're shifting our focus now. A Bengaluru-bound private bus carrying around 40 passengers caught fire early today in Andhra Pradesh's Kurnool district, killing at least 20 people. The bus collided with a two-wheeler which got trapped under the vehicle and struck the fuel tank, triggering the massive blaze. What makes this tragedy even more concerning is the bus's troubling history of 16 outstanding challans, including overspeeding, dangerous driving and violations for no entry. Furthermore, the driver was reportedly operating the bus without a valid driver's license. The state government has condoled the deaths, and questions are now being raised over the safety of these buses. In response, Prime Minister Modi has also gone on to announce a 2 lakh rupees ex gratia for the victims' families.
Sir, what exactly happened and why did this fire accident take place? What is the reason behind this fire accident, sir?
This accident is unfortunate, and we are condemning this incident. At the time of morning 2:45, up to our knowledge, department, what is the information our department has collected, one scooter has gone under the bus, front side of the bus, and the tank busted and electric circuit has failed. A total bus caught with fire.
Sir, what is the number of casualties which have been reported and also how many passengers were traveling when this incident had taken place?
More than 40 to 42 passengers are in the bus when the incident has took place. Now the casualties are 11. 11 they are taking treatment in Government General Hospital, Kurnool.
And number of deaths reported, sir?
Madam, up to now, we doesn't know total figure of deaths, why the bus has caught with fire and it has become, it is a very tragic situation. Approximate the deaths are around 28 to 30.
And also, sir, what are the relief measures which the government is providing on ground? Because we see this is a massive fire accident that has taken place.
Sure. The government is with the people. We will take a necessary measure to the families of wounded, deceased and dead people. In short time, we'll come to know what are the relief things we are going to give into the dead people.
First, I want to understand from you what you're making of the situation. Have you been able to assess all that's happened the last few hours since the fire incident took place?
Yeah, in a very tragic manner. We have seen that a bike has collided with the bus and resulting in a fire breaking out in the bus. And as you can see, the bus is right behind. And many people have lost their lives. They have been burnt alive and several bodies are in the bus. And we are here on the ground since the incident has happened for the past 4 to 5 hours. As you can see here, the government employees, the administration, police and the doctors have responded very fastly, and they are doing very fastly what they can help to the people who have been injured. And our Health Minister Kumar has also ordered the government doctors here to set up a camp. If you can go back, there is a camp here so that they can do postmortem and related.
Viewers, as you know, and it doesn't bear any repetition, Bihar is at a point of inflection. It lacks no resource, think about it. it has fertile land, it has human capital, it has minerals. Yet during the last 3 decades, Bihar's share in nominal terms in the national GDP has decreased from 3.6% in 1990-91 to 2.8% in 21-22. Its nominal per capita income was only 30%. Yes, viewers, 30% of the national per capita income in 2021-2022. This is inexcusable because Bihar, viewers, contributes almost 10% to India's population. But Bihar's decline was also presaged. Way back in 1997 itself, the Patna High Court coined the term Jungle Raj, suggesting that Bihar under the leadership of Lalu Yadav had lost its way. Today, when we consider the statistics, I've just read out to you, the Patna High Court's assessment way back in 1997 seems almost prophetic. Bihar needs to feel the change that is sweeping over some other states in this union. Its hard-working and enterprising people deserve their due. And that's why the Prime Minister warned Biharis that they must not elect those that epitomize the Jungle Raj culture that set Bihar on its downward spiral. He was referring to Lalu Yadav's son and legatee Tejashwi Yadav, who has been declared the chief ministerial face of the Mahagathbandhan, the principal challenger to the NDA. Listen in to the Prime Minister views.
साथियों, आज कांग्रेस के पूर्व अध्यक्ष सीताराम केसरी जी की पुण्यतिथि है। देश कभी नहीं भूल सकता कि किस तरह कांग्रेस के इस परिवार ने सीताराम केसरी जी का अपमान किया था।